Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, and welcome to the Twinview live webinar. Today's title is around how digital twins can transform data into decisions. It's about unlocking the power of your digital twin to help you grow and develop, whether it be your efficiencies, your operational performance, or just to get a better visibility of how your building's performing. A few little bit of housekeeping before we start. The session is being recorded. It will be shared with everybody after the session. So take as many notes as you want, but you don't need to. We will make sure we share all this. We have the chat available for you in this webinar. So if you have any questions, please feel free to throw it in the chat. And at the end, we'll bring Adam on stage and he can start to work for those questions that you may have. But feel free to put them in the chat at any point and I'll take notes of those. The plan is to keep this to an hour at a maximum. So those people who've got busy days that follow this, they've got plenty of time to pick up on those bits of work as well. I did want to very quickly remind people this is part of a series. There are a number of other different webinars that will be coming in the near future. There are some historical webinars that can also be accessed from the Twinview website. So please feel free to catch up on any ones you may have missed and keep your eyes peeled as we release dates for any future webinars that are available in the series. Before I hand over to Adam to take you kind of through the meat of the webinar, I wanted to give you a little background for those who are unaware of Twinview about kind of who we are. So we're a market-leading lifecycle digital twin platform, as you can see that says on the stage. But a little bit about us is what makes us unique, we feel, is that actually Twinview was born out of a group of architects and BIM consultants and BIM object libraries that have created the need ultimately for how do we visualize buildings beyond just simply the design and build phase and into operation. How do we understand what impact we're trying to make? How do we make our buildings more effective, more efficient? How do we understand how they are performing and how do we therefore improve them for whatever that objective it might be for yourselves? We are a global business across over 300 buildings across 5 continents. As you can see over there, over 2.5 million maintainable assets have been tracked in Twinview. So we have an awful lot of exposure to buildings that are heavily efficient and well optimized and to those that are just starting their journey. And typically, why do people invest in digital twins? Why do people come to people like Twinview? We kind of summarize them in 3 real core areas. It's about ultimately the visualization of your buildings and your assets and getting to the information as quickly as you possibly can to allow you to make those insightful decisions. Technology is an enabler. It's the people that make the change. It's about understanding the lifespan of your building. It's not just about building during construction, but it's about how can we understand where we can improve our performance throughout the operation phase. And then how do we improve the efficiencies of our people? How do we make the data that we have available to us available in a way that actually people can make efficiencies in their own operational elements. And finally, digital twin is about a whole project life cycle. It's not about exclusively operations. You can actually utilize the technology to improve your efficiencies, to get better access and visibility to data throughout the life cycle of your building, from the conception right through to the ongoing operation. So it's with pleasure that I'll invite Adam to the stage. There we go. Adam, you are now on stage. I think you're muted at the moment.
Thank you, Neil.
No problem. And I will get Adam's slides up and then I'll leave you in the safe hands of Adam. It's all yours.
Thanks, Neil. Welcome to the webinar. What I'm going to try to show today is try to do as many live demos as possible. And what I'm trying to get across is the more visualization, dashboard and analytics capabilities, and how you can use the data you have to actually get insights into your building and its performance. So I'm not going to focus on much else, just focusing on that aspect. Let's jump in. So as Neil mentioned, at its core, what Twinview does is bring information together and data. So in a simplistic world, we think of 2 types of data at Twinview. Think about static data, which is your BIM information, your documentation, your asset information, which isn't really static, but for the purpose of this, we call it static data. Maybe scanning data, O&M manuals. Again, not really static, but information which is kind of delivered at handover. Of course, in operation, that updates and changes. Then we talk about dynamic data, which is your IoT data, your BMS data, your real-time energy data from your EMS systems, maybe it's people, occupancy, room use, etc. Maybe it's environmental data like air quality, etc. So this is what we call dynamic data, which is changing constantly. It's dynamic. That said, the static data still updates. The asset information is constantly updated as assets are changed, swapped out as maintenance happens. But for the purpose of today's webinar, we talk about two types of data: static data and dynamic data. And Neil's mentioned how we've got a series of modules on Twinview, a series of tools. So we got various toolkits which help manage that data, validate the data, and allow you to get insights into that data at different stages of the project, whether that's design information, your information management during construction, or whether it's actually operational information. So what I'm going to do is walk through a few of these today. So we'll do a quick introduction, but Neil's done that, so we can miss that. I'm going to give a quick look at capture. So how during design and construction can we check and validate the information which is being put into these digital twins? And what we call our O&M toolkit. So again, how we can validate that static data, the O&M manuals, and make that process a bit easier during design and construction. So rather than wait till the end of construction, get a big USB full of documents and upload all those to Twinview, which you can do, how you can use some of the tools we have to actually make that a much easier process. And then we're going to talk about some of the operational tools, so tools which you would use during operation, your dashboarding, your insights, your reporting, heat mapping to visualize data, interactivity, and then control and automation, which is like the holy grail. So rather than just get insights on dashboards, how can we let the building control itself? And we'll show you how we can do that using Twinview. And then lastly, we'll jump into a few API integrations and what we call our node assistant to show how some of these things can be integrated really easily. And at the end, we'll leave time for questions and answers. So where we'll start is with capture. Now, capture is a tool which can be used during the design phase and the construction phase of a project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into a project, and let's just find one. Let's go into this one. And let's just let that open up. So again, the 3D model doesn't really matter in this scenario. So let's say the architects, the engineers upload the models every 2 weeks to Twinview as part of the design workshops. What Twinview can do is check that the data in those models based off your asset information requirements and actually validate that that data exists. So when we talk about that, if I go into project settings, capture, what you can define in here is, this is using unit class, but it does use other classifications. You can define what are you interested in. So if you said I'm interested in doors, you can go and pick doors, click use. After you've picked doors, or you've then picked all the items you want to manage, you want to collect information on, you'll have a list of them. And then what you can do in here is click manage, and then you get a list of standard data types. So in other words, what data do you want to collect on these doors? Twinview has a list of thousands of off-the-shelf bits of data, Kobe data, etc. But you can add your own data as well. So for example, in this one, we're asking for the commissioning certificate, the documentation literature, installation date, manufacturer model, serial number, size of nozzle, etc. So again, you can add your own data into here as well. So you're defining what assets you're interested in, what data you need on those assets. And then what you can also define is stages, because you don't need all the data at one stage. Serial number, you're not going to have till the end of the project, because every bit of equipment's got a different serial number. So in here, you can see at stage 4, we said we're interested in fire extinguishers, and we're interested in this information. We're not interested in the serial number. You can see, if I was, I would just click use there. After you've picked what data you're interested in, you can then also, let's say we are interested in the serial number at this stage, we can then click assign, and we can assign that to a company or an individual who's responsible for providing that data. So you can create your template to define this information, as well as add your organizations who's going to be involved in this process. And then essentially what Twinview will do automatically, as the models are uploaded every 2 weeks, it will check the data in those models. So if we now go to capture, now go to BA information requirements, you'll see for stage 4, the data is not complete there. So if I now go in organizations, we can see, and I can also do reports on this data if I wanted to. But if I go to stage 4, let's have a look. Now, so we can see it's actually this one here, Dorset system, 17 of 18 parameters, 94% complete. So you can see these 2 fire extinguishers have the data, this one doesn't. So what we can do now is, again, if the model exists, we can locate that. And what we can do is now go and actually add the missing data. So you'll see on here, it's actually missing a commissioning certificate. So what I'll do is I'll just go and upload something there. Again, it doesn't check that's correct. It just checks that you've provided, and you can see that's now completed. And what you'll see is this is now 100% complete. And what the information manager can do, who's using this tool, all they've got to do is, again, look at this dashboard and say, hey, the data is not complete. You can see which organizations you need to get data from. But what's really powerful is, again, you can add the data through this system if you want to. Of course, the architect, the sub-consultant could upload a new model with the data in, and those charts will move. However, it does have the ability for them to put that data in themselves if you don't have access to the software. A couple of other things, obviously, you can generate reports here. So if you wanted to go and generate a report, Twinview will automatically generate a more detailed report, which it's not showing on my screen because I'm in full screen mode. 1 second. So yeah, it will generate a stage report based off the stages you specified, with how complete the data is by what stage, and broken down by company as well. So essentially, this is, I'm not going to go too deeper into this. This is just a very quick look, but this is a way you can use some of the tools in Twinview to define what data you need or your client needs on what assets, and then create a template, and then Twinview manages the rest through design and construction. So at the end, you have all that data correct in Twinview. As we've been adding that data, so when I added that parameter, of course, from like a golden thread log point of view, if I go to project activity log, Adam Ward has added a new parameter commission certificate on this asset with this information. So you'll see on here, it automatically keeps track of every single change, every single upload, etc. So that's talking about how you can use some of the tools during construction. So let's quickly jump back into, that's what we call capture. So the next tool is O&M Builder. So as well as making sure your data in your digital twin, your static data is correct, we need to also make sure that we have all the documentation, the O&M manuals, etc. So let's quickly show this now. So we have a tool called O&M Builder, and you'll see down here we have O&M Manual. Now, what you can do in Twinview, if I just go up to here, admin area, I'm going to O&M templates, and you can define your own template structure. So in here, I've got O&M UK standard, and you'll see you can basically build your O&M sections. You can then define what information you need in each one of these sections, in this case, specification documents. And some of these documents can be generated automatically. Some are uploadable. So for example, stuff like project information, Twinview will generate that. Table of contents, it will generate. Asset registers, it will generate for you. So you create these templates, and then what you can do is you can add that template to a project during design. So then what happens in here is you have this O&M manual, and what you'll see is you get a little dashboard with, you've got 8 of 13 documents, 62% complete, 3 contributors. And what I can do in here, again, if I click settings, you can go and update various things in here. But if I click in manage, you get this screen, and this basically shows your O&M structure and then how complete it is. So you'll see on here, introduction and forward's got a little red bit next to it. So that's because this hasn't been completed or it hasn't been approved yet. So what I can do if I wanted to is I could go and add this, add some information. You get like a WYSIWYG editor, or you can upload a document. But when I'm happy with that, I'll just approve it. That's now approved. So you'll see that's now turned green. So I can go into specification documents, and you'll see there's 2 documents which have been uploaded by the engineer, which I need to approve. And again, I can approve this or I can deny it. If you deny it, you can put a message why you've denied that document. Now, let's say I want to ask a subcontractor to provide some information in this section of the O&M manual. What I can do is create what's called a funnel. And I can go added funnel, and we'll just put, we want this to go into specification documents. And in here, we'll put load your fire spec here. Put some text in there. You can also put an expiry date if you want to, and you just click save, and that'll generate this link. And what you can do is now copy it and send that to whoever you want to send that to, and it will now monitor that and chase that person up if you haven't provided those documents. When you do provide those documents, what will happen is they'll appear in Twinview in here, and then again you can approve or deny them. So I'll approve this, I'll approve this, and you'll see fire strategy. Let's just say we're going to approve all these. I'm happy with them. Obviously, click on them and check them in real life. So you can see our whole spec's now complete. When I said there was some things which are dynamic, so if you look at stuff like the front page here or introduction and forward, again, you can do this in Twinview or table of contents. It's automatically generated. Asset register. So in here, you don't have to, you can upload a document if you wanted to, but you can also let Twinview automatically generate that if you have, because we know all the assets, all the information on the assets. So all you got to do is specify a query set, if you know what query sets are in Twinview, and it will basically create a register based off that. So you can see that's now complete. So we'll see 100% complete. So now what I can do here is basically click generate, and it will now go and generate that O&M manual. Now, because in settings here, I've defined show that in document vault, yes, it's going to save a copy of that manual in our document vault. But what we can do is just click download, and you'll see it actually downloads. You can't see, but what it'll do is it will download ignore the fact it's in a folder here. So it's got today O&M manual, and then what we have is the actual folder structure. If I go into asset register, you'll actually see what it's doing is it's generating that based off, again, Twinview's generated that automatically. The documents we've uploaded, etc. There's the fire strategies. So at any point you can download that. What also happens is a copy gets saved to your document vault. So if I go on the document vault, you'll see we've got O&M manuals. And in here, there'll be one with today's date on, which is this one. And again, it's in a weird folder structure because I'm in a development environment. But what you'll see is you've essentially got that information in there as well. So every time you generate one, it keeps a copy of the O&M manual at that stage. So it's a nice way to define what O&M manuals you need, who's responsible, a bit like data, and actually collate them during construction and let Twinview do all the chasing up for you on that. Of course, those manuals can be added to a dashboard. So if you go to a dashboard, you can actually see, you can create your own dashboards here. If you wanted to go and put in, let's put in total O&M contributors. And we'll just say that's going to be fine. And so you can actually go and add your own dynamic, create your own dashboards using that data, same as you can with IoT data. So that's just 2 of the tools we have for design and construction to make the process of collecting the information, validating the information a bit easier. So now we get into the exciting stuff, which is dashboarding and reporting, etc. So really, a digital twin is when you're getting this real-time data, you overlaying that onto the information. So let's have a look at dashboarding in Twinview. Ooh. So let me go to a different project, and let's go to the Hickman here, I think. just let that kick in. And what we've got over here is we've got project dashboard. So just for a bit of context, when we talked about static data earlier, what I meant by that was if I click on an asset like this, you can see we get all the static data, etc. The O&M manuals you've just seen us collate. If I click on Document Vault, you can see all the documents related to that particular piece of equipment. So this is the static data, and you have the Document Vault where it's all the O&M manuals. Of course, you have got all them down there as well. Now, dashboarding in Twinview sits at different hierarchies. You might have a building dashboard, so you can have like an overview of the whole building. You could have an asset dashboard with looking at a particular piece of equipment. You can even have a room dashboard or portfolio dashboard. So what we'll do is we'll go into the project dashboard, and what we'll see on here, if it opens up, there it is. We've got a dashboard we've created called Dashboard. We've got one called AHU Insights, End Use Per Floor Zone, and these dashboards are interactive. So really, whatever static data you have in your model, whatever dynamic data you have can be pulled onto these dashboards. So for example, we've got one here called Total Tickets, which is coming from Twinview's FM functionality. We've got the total number of assets, total number of issues, and then we also pulled in some electric data and some outside weather data here. So you can combine static and dynamic data on the same dashboard in Twinview. And again, fully interactive, you can design your own. Let's say you want to add a new widget, you can click add widget, etc. If I go to end use per floor zone, this gives you some insights into energy use by the different floor levels, if it's metered that way. So on this building, you'll see level 1, zone B, level 1, zone A. Maybe we swap them around to make it a bit more obvious. And down here, you can see we've got all the different zones in the building. And funny enough, on here, what you will see is we have a rogue reading, which is actually minus 200,000, which is quite common in the world of IoT. So really, we should have put a rule in there to put like a range in to exclude that out. We'll talk about that later. But what you'll see is this allows you to get insights into how the different tenants, you'll see on a weekend how there's less energy use generally. And you'll see, yes, you'll see kind of less energy during the weekend, more energy used during the week as you'd expect. But it means if you spotted a pattern, you could go and ask a question. Well, what happened on, you'll see consistently on the 20th of August, there was a lot of energy use. So what was that? And similarly, on the 16th of September, so you'll see there's certain spikes which correlate. So you can use that data to go and look at this. What you can do with this is you can change the range. So if you wanted to see like this every week, you can break it down into weeks, or you can change the chart range to show whatever is the most suitable. Let's do by hour, for example. You can break it down and see actually the readings we're getting every hour there. So you can break it down to be as whatever resolution suits the chart type. Obviously, environment. You can start pulling through external API data, and this one's coming from Open Weather, air quality, and you can see. So this chart down here, we'll go and create one in a second. This is called an insights chart, and this is where you can overlay different bits of data to get insights into what's happening. And again, you can zoom in on here, and what you'll see is you can hover over, so you can see that little spike there where it went up to moderate on the 14th of September, and you can see all the data. And again, you can interact with this. You can make it bigger, so you can start to interrogate the data as well. You can also go back in time as well if you want to go back and see what was actually happening in an earlier date. So Twinview's got its own data lake where it can take all this data and store it. You don't need to store it in a separate database and bring it into Twinview. Twinview will bring that data in. So what I'll do is I've got a new little one here called Webcast. We'll just add a widget, and what we'll do is we'll go and add some static data. So we'll add a stat widget, and in this case we'll pull through. Let's pull through the total number of maintenance jobs which have in progress or complete. And what we can do is, we can say let's just make it green, and this is a cool widget. So click save. That'll now go and pull through the number of jobs on there. You've then got things like graphs. So let's say you want to pull through maintenance jobs and you want to do that by, let's say, a pie chart, and you want to do it by today, so you can just do that. So you can see it's really easy to create these widgets, add them, get insights into the data. You can also do things like, let's bring in some IoT data here. So let's bring in the outside weather. We'll just say we want these are the points which have been brought in. And we'll say we want to show that as a line chart, and we'll just say save. So you'll see we can now start going and arranging this. What you can also do is overlay 2 bits of data on the same chart. So let's say you want to do a comparison between the outside temperature and the indoor temperature. What you could do in here, average northeast room temperature, we'll just put that in. We'll see if this works. Show history, yes, I think, and click save. Yeah, and you can start to go. Obviously, you'll have to change the chart size to make it look a bit better, but you can start to see how you can start to go and pull in and overlay data on top of each other, etc. Then the other widget type we got, which is quite good, is what we got here is what we call IoT timeline data. So this is where you want to analyze different data streams from different sources. So we'll just put in analysis for webinar, and in here we'll add a couple of lines, and in here we'll bring in the outside temperature. We'll also bring in an average temperature, and we'll bring in one more average floor temperature. We'll just change the row size to 2 to make it a bit bigger, and we'll change this one to green so it's a bit more. I'll make it blue. Blue. Cool. Click save, and what you'll see is in a second it's now loading. So you can actually see on here the outside temperature started to rise and the indoor temperature started to drop. So again, bringing different data sources together to understand, hey, what's happening in this building. And again, you can interact with this, etc. Now, let's say you wanted to go back to a time in the past. Again, because Twinview's got its own inbuilt data lake here, I can go back to 2022. Let's go back to this February. Let's just bring in a couple of days worth of data. And we can start to go and see. So in February 2022, we can start to see the patterns, and we can see the similarity between the data and the relationships there. So very quickly within Twinview, without any kind of programming, without any kind of sucking at the power by, you can create all these dashboards yourself in Twinview. You can also create what we call a control widget, where you can actually control devices. So again, through BACnet or Modbus or through an API, we can control lighting, reset switches, unlocking doors, for example, all directly in. So you can put buttons on the dashboard as well. So that's all I'll cover for that type of widget, dashboard, sorry. A few other little quick things on dashboards. We do have dashboards at an asset level. So for example, if I went and searched for the boiler, because I know we've got some good dashboards on the boiler, click this one, there's the boiler, there's all the documents on the boiler. We can go and find the boiler. Now I want to see what this boiler is doing, because we've had somebody complain it's making a noise. We can click on dashboard here, and you can start to see the boiler's currently off, and you can see what the boiler's doing. And again, like before, if we wanted to, we could go back in time and see what that boiler was doing at any time in the past. So either at an asset level or a project level, you can create these dashboards which actually show you information. So again, if I go back to February 2022 on here, and we'll see what this boiler was. Ooh. One second. My finger slipped. There we are. So it's coming in. So it's loading in still. There we are. So if I went to February 2022, the more data you load, the longer it takes to load, obviously. So let's go February 2022. Let's go to February. I know some good data in February. We'll load 3 days worth of data in February. And yeah, you'll see on there, you can see when the boiler turned on, when it turned off, and you can see the pattern between the different days. That's 2 years ago. So yeah, so that's at an asset level. You can do the same at a room level. You can click on a room and see what the room temperature is, how many people are in a room, etc., etc. If you wanted to. But then again, you might have multiple buildings in Twinview. You can also do a dashboard across different buildings. So those dashboards are very dynamic. You can create whatever type of dashboards for whatever insights you want to get. But then we have got some inbuilt dashboards in Twinview. So if I now go back to the Hickman, so the big ones, energy performance and insights and sustainability. So up here, we've got energy performance and insights. This comes hardwired in Twinview. And what you'll see in here, it's bringing in your baseline data from your TM54, which is the grey. The grey is how the building should be performing as it was designed. And again, you can load that in here, your baseline data. The red line is the real data coming from your meters in real time. And you can see on here, back in June, 42,000 kilowatts of electric was used. And the purple line is last year. So you'll see compared to, we're using more energy than we were last year, but we're using less than what the building was designed. And I'd be asking the question here, why did the building use more energy up between November and February than the building was designed to do? It's dropped back into line now. You can also load in your energy costs. So again, if you've got your energy tariff here, you can go and put how much you're paying for electric, how much you're paying for gas, your daily standing charge, your start date, your end date, and then you can also pick how much that's renewable, so we can calculate your carbon use, etc. And that will be used. So for example, rather than just looking at how many kilowatts we used in June, what we can do is go to cost, and we can actually see, yeah, £9,000 electric bill in June in there. And you can see all the break it down by floor or by energy source, etc. So that's what we call our energy dashboard. If you have metering is broken down by system, you can break it down into different systems as well. Cool. So I think that's enough for dashboarding. We'll move on to the next one, which I think is reporting. Yeah, so reporting. So where dashboards are dynamic and real time, there'll still be a need to produce like a monthly report, a weekly report on energy use, on FM use. So in Twinview, we've got the capability to do that in our report builder. So if I go back out to the screen here, we've got our report tool here. Now, the reason our report tool sits outside of a project is you might want to report across multiple projects. Project A, Project B, which one's most energy efficient, for example. That's why it sits outside of the project, and you can create reports which contain data from multiple projects. So if I click my reports now, we haven't hardwired reports in here. You can build your own reports using what we call our report builder. So it's really easy. You can just click add, give your report a name. You can then basically start going using widgets to start building your report up. I'll show you a couple. So here's an energy report on the Hickman, which is that building you've just looked at. And you'll see how we've kind of created this report here. Talking about which systems using the most electric, which ones are, yeah, so pretty good data. But what's really powerful about this is you can schedule the frequency of this report, weekly, monthly, yearly. Or is it a one-off report? You can then also schedule who you want to share this report with. And what Twinview will do is it will automatically generate a PDF on that frequency every week, every month, every year, and email this report to the people who's on your distribution list here. So it's really easy to do. What's really cool about this uses real data, dynamic data, just to show you how easy this is. Annual energy cost, your annual energy cost for this period is £350,000, 12 month. So what we can do in here, if we click edit, you can see how this is like a text editor, but this is used, it's pulling that cost from something called an expression. So in Twinview, you can create your own expression library here. Let's find the one for that. Total annual energy costs. We'll click edit and you'll see on here. So essentially, this is a bit like Microsoft Excel. So what's taken is the real-time electric unit cost, times in that by the annual energy consumption, which is a real-time data, doing some math to turn it into pounds, adding on the daily standing charge, times it by the number of days in a year, doing the same for gas to calculate the value. So super easy to do. I'm not going to save this, but just to show you. So let's say I want to pull the outside air temperature. You'll see 21.3. That's real data coming in. Let's say I want to turn that into Fahrenheit. You can just times that by 10. I don't know what the math is, but you can see how you can. I know the math for Kelvin. 467. So you can actually convert that to Kelvin. Really simple, and you can do kind of if conditions, or conditions, less than, more than, etc., etc. So really powerful things you can do with this. You can even do things like this. Just get rid of that calculation. The side weather temp is. Yeah, so you can see on there, the outside weather temperature is 21.3, and that's dynamic. And again, if you wanted the average, so you can click on this, you can go latest record, or you can do like an average. So let's say I want like the weekly average temperature. Again, you can go and set that in here and actually update that. And now what will happen is it'll pull through that data. Now it's pulling through an array there. So you'll see it's pulling through the 3 temperatures over that weekly period. So really powerful, create really dynamic reports using this. But what's really powerful is automated. You schedule when you want this report to generate, and every week, every month, every year, it'll generate an email this report to people. And you can add static data or dynamic data onto this report as well. Now, just to show that that's for energy use, if I go into St. Oswald's FM report here, here's a similar report, but this is using static data. So rather than real-time IoT metering data, this is pulling through the number of maintenance jobs. So far this year, you've closed out 392 maintenance jobs. Your average maintenance job closeout time is 4.5 hours. And you can start to see most problematic assets, etc., etc. So again, you can create these reports really dynamically. Cool. So let's go back. So that's reporting in Twinview. What time is it? Okay, good. And then we've got data visualization. So this data, rather than have like a dashboard or a report, you might want to visualize it in the model. So we've got various ways of doing this. But the best one, I think the most visual one, is what we call heat mapping. So let's say you want to visualize the number of people or air quality on a floor level, or the temperature of a floor level. Because we've got that data streaming into Twinview and it's associated to an asset, a level, space, a room, what we can do is we can click on heat map here. We want a heat map level 6. We want to do the temperature. Depends on what sensors you have, obviously. I want to do, let's just do all of August. Click load. So I'm going to zoom to level 6, and it's now loaded in the heat map data. And if I just click on these dots, these are the devices. And what you'll see at the bottom here is the actual date range we've just picked. So I picked the 1st of August to the 31st of August, and now we can go and zoom. And what I can do is I can zoom in to any time and see what was actually happening at that point in time, and yeah, get that interactive visualization of the data. Again, allowing you to visualize what's going on and understand that. Cool. So let me jump back out. So control and automate. So I've talked about how Twinview, you can add buttons to dashboard to control. So rather than just creating a report about, hey, the temperatures keep getting too high on this building, or the lights are staying on level 6 when there's nobody on the floor, how can we automate the building? How can we let Twinview take control of some aspect of the building and actually optimize it? So let's go and have a look at this then. So behind the scenes, every project which uses Twinview, which uses our IoT module, has something called Node Assistant. And essentially, this is how you can integrate into the IoT devices really easily. It's built off a proven technology called IBM Node-RED, but we've added our own development on top of that. So let's create a flow here called, I don't know, grit. Let's just put Adam's automation. So firstly, all those points and all that data in Twinview, you'll see down here, I've got get device. I can get a device state. A device could be a boiler, a bit of equipment. I've got kind of get light state, set media device, get button state, get thermostat state. So what we can do here is we can actually get current status of devices which exist in Twinview. Or we can do ones which don't exist in Twinview through things like BACnet or Modbus also, or through an API or MQTT. But regardless, what we can do is get data. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do an example. So let's say we want to automatically turn a light on in the control room of the building when the temperature drops below 0. And then we also want to raise a ticket in Twinview for the FM team to go and put salt on the car park so nobody slips over. So let's create an automation to do that. So what I'm going to do on here, I'm going to go to an inject node, and this is essentially the beginning of the flow. This is called no-code coding, essentially. So in here, I can say I want this to run. I could have it run every second if I want to, but I'll say at a specific time. Let's say the office is shut on a Saturday or Sunday, so we don't care about that. I want it to run at 5 o'clock every morning before anybody comes in the office. I want to check the weather at that time. So that's going to fire out. This is going to run at that time. So now what I need to do is actually get the weather station device on the roof and get the current reading of that. So what I would go down is Twinview, get device state here, pull that in, not that one. Get device state, pull that in, and wire that into that. I would go in here and put device IDs, etc. into there, but for the sake of this demo, we don't need to do that. So essentially, this is going to 5 o'clock every morning, get the device state. Then what it's going to do is spit the result out the back of here. So now what we want to do, we only care if that's below 0. So we're going to put a switch node on, and we're going to say if less than or equal to 0, 1, or we'll put an otherwise on, otherwise 2. So I'll put 2 nodes on here. If it's less than 1, otherwise 2. So let's now go and turn the light on in the control room. So now what we'll do is we'll go down here and we will go to Twinview, set light state, and we'll just pull that up and we'll wire that into that. Again, I'd go in here, put the light ID, what color we wanted, etc. Now we want to raise a ticket in Twinview for somebody to go and grit the road. So down here, Twinview ticket API. We'll just wire that into the same one, and then we would deploy that. Then essentially what this is going to do is 5 o'clock every morning, this is going to fire. It's going to get the temperature from the weather station. It's going to spit that out of here. This is going to do a bit of logic to see if it's below 0, below freezing. If it is, it's then going to go and raise a ticket in Twinview. Again, you'd fill in the ticket information in here and set the light state to red, let's say, in the control room. So this is how you can automate stuff. But you could do it, say, hey, check how many people are on the floor level. If there's nobody on, turn the lights off, for example. It shouldn't be used to replace functionality of your BMS. It's not designed for that. But you can use it to do things like I've shown here to basically make things more efficient, automatically raise issues. You could check the status of a device, maybe check the vibration on a sensor, and if the vibration goes out of range, raise a ticket for somebody to go and fix that, or show that on a dashboard. What you can also do, rather than just put raw data on a dashboard, you can actually have what we call, you can have like simplistic widgets. So what I mean by that is, if I go to project dashboard, 1 second, where's it at? Yeah, we are. Acceptable humidity range. So what you could do is, instead of having like 10 widgets for every humidity sensor in every room, what you could do is have a little visual script which basically says, hey, check these 10 sensors. If 20% of them are reporting bad air quality, put this message onto this widget. So you can create more logical, more human-friendly dashboards based off logic, if that makes sense. Yeah, so cool. Yeah, so I think that's probably enough for control and automate. The final one I want to talk about is third-party integrations. So obviously Twinview can integrate into your BMS system. It can integrate through API. It can integrate through MQTT. It can integrate through Modbus, BACnet. But it can also take information in from your FM system, your CAFM system. So again, rather than use Twinview's inbuilt CAFM system, you can put everything in Twinview can come from an external source. So to show what I mean by that, if I go up to here and I go to Twinview API, generate a key. I'm going to change this key after because it's on a webinar. So go and copy it. Click documentation. You'll see some stuff like tickets, attachments, communication, users, IoT, device, get device, create device, set device, energy, attachments, parameters. So the static data we talked about earlier in the objects, the manufacturer, the model number, we can get the data, we can change data, we can edit the data through an API. So if you already have a system where you manage your data, we can pull that data in as well and keep it in sync. So yeah, and obviously things like Microsoft Power BI, yes, you can create dashboards in Twinview, but let's say you've got a specific need to bring the data back out into Microsoft Power BI, obviously that can be done through our API as well. So quite powerful. We don't lock your data in. You're kind of free to do what you want. Yeah, so I think that's it, Neil. So I think, yeah, so what I hopefully try to show here is how we can take static data, dynamic data, bring it into Twinview, how we can interrogate it and do things with it without being restricted. And then, yeah, but it's really dependent on what data you have and what you want to get out of Twinview. You can only dashboard, you can only report if you have the data to do it, if that makes sense. Thanks, Neil.
Thanks, Adam. Really interesting. We've had a few questions come through that I'll share, and I've got a couple of my own as well. But we'll start with some questions about the last thing you're talking on there with regards to Node Assist. So Jonathan's asked, can I, as a user, create my own automations using Node Assistant? So how does it work in terms of admin, user access, etc.?
So yeah, so the reason Node Assistant exists is when we handle, obviously we can set it up or onboarding for you. But with training, you can do that yourself. So you can go in, you can add automations, you can update it. It's fully compatible for IBM Node-RED nodes. So for those who don't know, IBM Node-RED is like an industrial level IoT integration platform. It's used in warehouses and data centers. It's got thousands of integrations. So if you've got a certain BMS or you've got a certain lighting control system, chances are there's already a package to communicate with that. So again, you don't need to get into the details of, you just install that package and communicate with it. But Twinview does have its own inbuilt packages as well.
Sorry. Amazing. And one more, this one's from Eve, asking about the trigger in Node Assist of that data transfer. Can it be pushed from a BMS? So yes, can external data effectively drive those nodes?
Exactly. So you can create some what's called a webhook inside of Node Assistant. So essentially, think of it as like a listener. So there's two ways of doing it. For this, there's two ways of doing it. You can basically do what's called a GET request, where Twinview gets the information on a set pull every hour, every week, every minute. So as anything changes, anything changed. That's called a GET request. We can also do what's called a post request, where the third-party system posts the information to Twinview. Yeah, so it supports that. We also support WebSockets, which is essentially, rather than, hey, ask a question, get an answer back, post the information, it's like a live pipe between the two. So it's like more dynamic. So it supports GET requests, post requests. It supports webhooks, supports MQTT if you use that pub sub model. It supports BACnet, Modbus. Yeah.
Amazing. And one that came in right at the start from Danesh was asking around whether we were obviously going to include the deck, which we didn't. So I'll raise the question now around kind of applications to digital twins in kind of urban and regional planning. So I guess from that planning stage, typically what sort of data points can you get? What sort of efficiencies could it drive?
Yeah, it's tricky because what you find is even though the tools out there, the BIM tools and the tools to do the plan stage have a lot of data in, it's like a disjointed approach. So typically the models we get or the data we get is kind of after planning. It's kind of when the plan's approved and kind of things start building up. But we call ourselves a building digital twin, so it's designed for properties and buildings. There's digital twin platforms out there which are designed for cities and more what I call infrastructure. But ours is very focused on, hey, a building, a property, an asset. You could do some of the things if you wanted to. I mean, if you think of when I'm clicking on the boiler and pulling up the information, if you had a city with different buildings, you could have a building. It could be an asset essentially, and that could have a series of data. You click on it, you can see how many people are in the building, the number, energy use of the building. So it could be done. It's just a very different mindset when setting it up. And it's not something we've had many of. We focus on the building currently.
And then a question from me, I'm interested in getting your point of view on how do you see the role of digital twins evolving as we become more familiar with things like AI, and that kind of feeds into the availability and apply that onto digital twins?
Okay, so AI is the next big thing that we heavily focused on. I've intentionally not shown it but in the next couple of months you'll see that appear. But essentially we see it in 3 phases. Phase 1, anyone who's used ChatGPT will know the power of it. So what we call phase 1 is being able to interact through a human interface. So being able, rather than me going to try to find a document, find a bit of data, I can just ask a chatbot, hey, how many valves are on level 6? Who's the building manager on the Hickman? What was the energy use on level 6 last year on the Hickman? And it will just pull up the answers and give us files and all that and represent them. Then what we call in phase 2 is being able to interact with Twinview. Hey, raise a ticket in Twinview. Hey, do this. So not just get information, but push things back into Twinview. And then the third part is what we call is when you get into what I call real machine learning, which is prediction. So rather than just say, hey, what was the energy use last week, last month? What you're doing is you're getting into, hey, predict what the energy use is going to be for the next year. The problem with what I'll call phase 3 in the world of digital twins and buildings is buildings are it's not like a Tesla car or an aeroplane where they all built the same with the same sensors. What you'll find is every single building in the world, apart from prefab stuff, is essentially unique. Different construction, different size, different facade, different heating systems, different products specified in there, completely different. And what you need to get true machine learning is a lot of historic data on labeled information. So essentially it's really hard to find because you don't have many buildings which have kind of high level stuff, heating systems you can, but not when you get into that level we need. But what we finding is with 2 to 3 years of historic data on an existing building on a platform like Twinview, you have enough data to start to get those insights. So if you've had your building in Twinview for 2 or 3 years, we know what the patterns are in that building on your heating, your use, and we can start to predict that, and that'll get better the longer it runs. So yeah, we are looking at that. It is a huge area we're looking at, and like I said, in the next few months you'll be seeing some stuff on that.
And I guess around this topic, it's that concept of helping people get access to data in a way in which they can make decisions as quickly as possible. That's kind of what ChatGPT does for the web, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And what I would say, there's machine learning AI modules built in Node Assistant. So, for example, we've got a sentient node at the moment. What that allows you to do is, for example, let's say somebody raises a ticket in the Twinview FM platform. You can send the body text of that ticket to that node, and it will say, hey, this person, on a scale of 0 to 100, how angry they are. And then you could use that to basically power, hey, priority of the ticket. So we have kind of got bits of it built in already, but it's kind of, in fact, just while I know we near the end, let me just quickly show, I want to show that actually. So yeah, so what you'll see on here is I've got a sentient node here, which is one of the nodes built in. And I've just put, I'm so angry that you broke the blah, 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 blah. That would actually be coming from the ticket, but I've just put it in here to show it. And then what we've got in here, if I fire this, you'll see it's giving me a score of -2, which means if it's a minus number, the person's angry. And you'll see on here, I can see the positive keywords and I can see the negative keywords which are in there. So again, you could use this data, pull that information from a ticket from Twinview, get that information from a ticket, run it through our sentient node, and then go and set the status of that ticket based off how angry that person is. That's just a little example. So we have got little tools like that now, but yeah, our big machine learning tools are coming in the next couple of months.
Amazing. So I always like to end the webinars with the same question. So that we talked about a lot of stuff, some of it, particularly AI, is kind of forward thinking, future thinking. For people listening to this webinar, what's the first step on that journey you'd advise people to do? What's the first thing they could go away and do tomorrow or next week to help them get to the point with some of the wonderful visualizations and data insights you've shared?
I think the first thing is understand what you want to get out of your digital twin. Some people might be I want to reduce my energy cost, understand how much energy I'm using. Some people I want to optimize my FM efficiency. Some people I want to understand how my building's operating and detect failures. So understand what you want to get out of it, and then that'll define what data you need to do that. The big advice I would say is if you've got a building already and it's a commercial building, you probably have the data you need to do all this stuff. That's the biggest thing people don't understand. If you have a BMS system, which most commercial buildings will, the amount of data in that is immense, and it'll be enough to do a lot of clever stuff. So a good example is most buildings we work on, the client will say, I need to go and install temperature sensors everywhere and air quality sensors everywhere. That's going to cost £50,000 to go and put all these sensors everywhere and wire them in. But actually, when you look at it, most air conditioning units, which sit in each room, actually detect the air temperature on intake. So that data exists in the BMS anywhere. So you don't need to go and install sensors. You just need to expose that data to a platform like ours from the BMS. So there's a lot of data in there already, because a BMS and your building is a very clever thing, but it's normally hidden away and geeky engineers kind of set it up at the beginning and forget about it. We can take that data out and use that data to get insights into what's happening.
Amazing. Thank you very much for your time, Adam.
No problem.
If anybody has any further questions, feel free to send them over and we can follow up those later. And the last thing to say is kind of thanks everybody for attending and any time. And we'll see you on the next webinar. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.